I've always been a fan of LG's past devices. I love the G3 for its crazy good looking display and design. The G4 was sort of a spin-off of the G3, only more refined, but then LG introduced the G5 2 months ago, and if you've paid any attention to most of the media, it's been getting mixed reviews. So let's talk about the LG G5 openly and honestly in this LG G5 review. First thing we need to talk about is the new design. The old G4 carried over the G3's design idea, but infused it with a little bit of LG G Flex 2 design by making it a little bit more squared off on the corners. The new G5 has adopted an entirely new design concept and some of the design cues from the LG G3 in my opinion. The rear of the G5 looks nothing like any previous LG phones. The only thing carried over is the backward facing power button. To me, it actually reminds me of the LG 5X, but way more premium. And speaking of premium, there's been a lot of talk about this paint coating on the G5 making it less premium. Well, to me, the coating provides a fair amount of grip of what would be an extremely slippery phone due to the curved edges. Does it feel as premium as an iPhone 6s or the S7 or the HTC 10? No, but it does feel hundreds of dollars more expensive than the last two G models from LG. Hardware on the outside of the phone has also changed. Physically, the phone has decreased in size, which means the 5.5-inch display is no more. It now has a 5.3-inch Quad HD IPS LCD panel with a rating of 900 nits of brightness. It's extremely bright and clear, and it's probably one of the best IPS panels I've seen in a very long time. The volume buttons have been placed on the left side of the device, which took some time getting used to, but after a few days it felt like every other Android phone. But most importantly, the G5 has a new 16 megapixel camera on the rear next to an 8 megapixel wide angle camera. When paired up, these two will give you a 134-degree field of view for those ultra wide landscape photos, but beware the crazy amount of distortion and fisheyeing when using it. Spec-wise, the G5 has it all. The Snapdragon 820 is running the show next to the latest Adreno 530 GPU. 4GB of RAM and 32GB of built-in storage make up the rest of the G5's internals. MicroSD card expansion still exists, and now it's right next to the Nano SIM card, and the huge thing with the G5 is its removable battery. Well, the G5 this year went unibody, so that means the death of removable batteries. Well, not exactly. The G5 is quote-unquote the first modular mainstream device you can buy today. So this little button on the left side of the phone will allow for the bottom piece of the LG G5 to slide out along with its 2800 mAh battery. While this is an ingenious idea, the rest of the story lies with its friends. These little things are all the different kinds of modules you can attach and get for your LG G5, and unfortunately, I don't have any to try out, so I really can't comment on them, but the camera grip is definitely one of the most intriguing for me personally. And while the hardware makes the muscle of the LG G5, the brains come from the software. Android-wise, it's running the latest install of Marshmallow, but out of the box it comes with a custom LG UI. And while it's decent to use, I've opted out for the Google Now launcher, mainly to regain my app drawer. There were a couple of faults with the original software, but it was mostly related to the app organization. It just became a nightmare finding all of my applications on the numerous home screens I had. Though in both cases, the software runs flawlessly. You seriously can't go wrong with this amount of power packed into a phone. Though its stock software isn't exactly on par with the rest of the flagships, though the Google Now launcher is a pretty good alternative for anyone. Now let's talk about the camera. So unlike a lot of other flagships, the G5 sticks true to its 16 megapixel camera size, a slightly tweaked for better performance iteration of the LG G4's camera. However, next to its 8 megapixel secondary camera, when those two are paired, it's capable of taking a photo with a mega wide 134-degree field of view. While it's a pretty neat party trick, it does distort like crazy, and the quality isn't nearly as good as the 16 megapixel unit on its own. I'll have a separate video comparing all the flagship cameras soon, but in a few words, the G5's camera is good, but not the best in 2016. The images are full of sharpness and detail, but I wouldn't rank it number one in photo quality. Its 4K video, on the other hand, is pretty good and has has some insane stabilization that works wonderfully. And the last thing I want to mention in this review is battery life. The G5 has a 2800 mAh battery, down 200 from the G4. It doesn't quite last all day, perhaps around 4 hours of screen on time if you're a heavy user. Though when that does happen to you, you can either plug in and quick charge, or you can slide the bottom and insert another battery. So to wrap it all up, the LG G5 is a sidestep from the norm of a super smartphone. It packs all the same hardware you would expect, but has some caveats like strange software quirks. But when compared to the S7 and other Android flagships on the market, the G5 seems like an alternative choice for those who want to keep the removable battery in the expense of expense. Money-wise, I'd choose the S7 any day. It's just a much nicer device to use, but if you're really wanting a removable battery, then the G5 is basically the only device for you currently. But it's just not our top choice for an Android flagship. Now thanks for watching the LG G5 review. If you liked it, make sure to hit that thumbs up button below. And as always, my name is Marco Hanna, and I'll catch you in the next video.